Welcome back to Iron Archery Outdoors, guys. We are going to show you something. So these are not new, but new to me, I guess, but these are the switch weight system by Bear Archery. Okay, if you're not familiar with them, you can use them as a glue-on style head. It's got a taper in there. I don't know if you can really see it, but you can use this as a glue-on for a tapered shaft. But you get with it, which this head here is 150 grain. You also get a field tip that's 150 grain. But you get 3 different ferrules. You get my bad. Where's the stainless one? Here. Okay, so you get 3 different ferrules. You get a 25 grain magnesium, a 50 grain aluminum, and a 100 grain stainless. So essentially what you have is 175 grain, 200 grain, and a 250 grain system. And how these work is these just screw right into here like that. It's a pretty cool little system, but I'm going to show you something why I always double check my sharpness on broadheads. These are right out of the package, okay? And hopefully you can see this good enough. Okay, how this does not even cut hair. And so many people, well, there's a couple little ones on there, but how so many people are going to say, oh, they're sharp enough. Okay, well, to each their own, but to me, I have problems shooting a deer with something that I know is not even cutting hair. Not only does that drastically affect penetration, but it also drastically affects the amount of blood that you're going to produce as a blood trail, along with the ability for that wound to clot up. The sharper that broadhead is, the harder it is for that wound to clot, to start to create a blood clot and clot up and quit bleeding. Okay, if it's a jaggedy edge, which like some of your buzz cuts or kind of serrated style edges, I'm not really a fan of them. Because if they do get dull, 1, they're a little harder to sharpen, and 2, I just don't really see the benefit of them rather than a razor edge. But I'm going to show you something where I'm going to take just the very outside edge of the bevel and sharpen it. These bevels right now on a flat, when they're laid flat, they're about a 20-degree bevel. And I'm going to set my work sharp jig here. I got a preset at 23 degrees. And I'm just going to resharpen the edge of that bevel, like the very outside, like 32nd, maybe 16th at most. And you'll be able to see it once I'm going to do one side here, and I'm going to sharpen it, and then I'll take it out and get it closer so you can see it. But you'll be able to see just the edge of that, and then I'm going to show you, then I'm going to come back to my arm, how much sharper it is. This one, I have not touched it all yet, along with this one. I've already sharpened one. But both of these are brand new out of the box. So I'm going to show you how to do this. And when it's with the newer head, you don't need much at all. I'm going to start with a 400 grit diamond. And what you're doing is you're basically just going to run this down the edge. Excuse me. You're going to run it to the edge until you get a burr on this back side, which hopefully you'll be able to see it when I get to that point. And hopefully you can kind of see these edges as it changes. So yeah, you can kind of see where it's just starting to change that edge a little bit. So that's what you're going to look for. And you're not going to take a whole bunch of it off. And you're not pushing hard. You're pushing really light. This is just a work sharp knife sharpener. But it'll work on anything that you can be able to get in this clamp that's between a 15 and a 30 degree bevel. Okay, so I tried to do iron wills on it, and obviously you can't, because if you're familiar with iron wills, they have a 32 degree bevel, so I can't quite get it steep enough in order to get it. But you could work it down to a 30 degree if you really wanted to, but I'm going to tell you right now, with a hard steel like the iron wills, it's an A2 tool steel blade, you will be there a long time. But you can sharpen it just the edge like I'm doing here if you really wanted to, but I just don't see the total benefit of it. I would just leave it at the 32 degree because you're keeping that edge retention better and all that stuff. And that's another big thing with doing this to these edges, is put that little increased bevel on there is helping that edge retention quite a bit, really. It doesn't seem like much, but it does make a difference. And so I don't know if you can really see. It's gonna be pretty hard to see it. Maybe I'll zoom in a little bit, see if that'll help. Maybe a little bit. So you can kind of faintly see that edge, how it changed a little bit. But what you're gonna look for is, you can see that little line right on the back side there. That's that burr. And if you do not get that burr like that, you will never get this edge as sharp as you want it. Okay, and I'm going to show you what you're looking for. Take a piece of Post-it note and just cut yourself a little slit, you know, 1/4 inch wide or whatever. Okay, and use a flat edge like this. And what you're looking for, it's going to be kind of hard to do, is that piece of paper to catch on that edge. This is make sure your edge of your paper is flat, not curved. Cut a new one. Okay. So what you're going to watch for see how that catches that? And it pops off. Then if you go over this edge, which obviously hasn't been touched yet, just slides right off it. Okay, it does not catch it. If it does not catch it, you're not getting that burr. Okay, so we got the burr all the way down the side. Now you're going to bring your back to this side, and you're just going to work that edge back over, you know, a little bit, so you can kind of keep your bevels about matched to both sides. You know, there's not really any magical way to do this. And like I said too, you're not pushing hard. If you're pushing hard, you're going to be flexing this thing up and down. You're just not going to get it a good crisp edge like you want, and you're just going to get frustrated. And I kind of learned that from experience a little bit. So you just want to be light with it. And like I said, being it's a new head, you don't need to start aggressive with it like a 220 or a 320 grit. I'm just starting with a 400 just so it takes a little bit faster, because these are a hardened stainless head. So they're not super hard, but it'll take a while. You could probably start with a 600 or a 600, but it'll take a little longer. And then got to just work it back, smooth out the grain a little bit. Sorry if I'm kind of shaking the camera here a little bit, kind of wonky. Kind of got a weird little thing set up back here. Anyway, this is gonna frustrate me here. Okay, so you can kind of start to see it a little bit. And see, now we got that little bit, it's a little harder to see that way with the light, but you see that little edge there. And you can feel it too. Make sure obviously you want to get the whole edge. So then you just being we already touched this side with the 400, just take that 400 and just take a couple passes over just to get that burr off there. And then now I'm going to go to the 600 and do the same thing over. Just do the same thing. You know, just nice and light. Just kind of filing it back and forth. There's not, like I said, there's not really any magic to it. Is it a big deal if you go straight in and down like this? Not really, but I've watched a few tests that Worksharp had on YouTube, and going back and forth this way in a motion actually seem to get a better edge when it's under a real fine microscope. And that's kind of the way I've always done it. And I can always get edges pretty much as sharp as I could possibly want them to get. So just kind of work this through. I know a lot of people kind of complain about, well, that takes a lot of time, whatever. I mean, you put as much effort in as the success you get out of it. So, you know, a wounded animal literally just makes the difference of a sharp head and a dull head. That's the way I look at it. And is a sharp head a guarantee to kill? No, obviously shot placement is. So you just want to make sure you got that burr all the way down again. If you can't feel it, use your little post-it note. That's what they're for. Make sure you can catch that edge, and obviously the finer grit you get, the more finer, you know, harder it is to kind of see it. Once you do it a little bit, you'll kind of catch on to it. And if you got any other questions on other heads, I mean, I've sharpened a lot of heads doing this, and it kind of goes with any system, whether you're using a flat stone or like Stay Sharp guides, you know, to do iron wills and other heads like that. The same thing applies. You always want to make sure you get that burr on the backside, and the burr applies to anything, whether it's a double bevel or a single bevel. That doesn't change at all. You know, the same rule goes. If you don't get the burr, you're not going to be satisfied with the finished product, and you're going to be wondering, what did I do wrong? All that stuff. Other heads that I can do on a flat stone, I'll finish on a 2500 grit sandpaper and then go to a buffing compound. But these, I don't really need to. I mean, you can get them plenty sharp enough on this. But you're just going really light again. And be careful when you're out on this tip. Don't try to roll this edge over. Otherwise, you're just going to you're not going to keep your tip super sharp. So, probably, I don't know, it's probably going to be really hard to see that edge. That little burr down the edge. You can kind of see it down here. You can probably kind of hear it. When you go to file it off, you'll hear it right away too. When I start, you'll hear it'll be kind of gritty sound, and it'll smooth out. So you probably could have heard that. Okay, so I mean, this is no speedy process by any means. It's going to take a little bit of time, but it's well worth it in my opinion. And just like any head, I mean, there's never been a head that I've shot that I haven't checked the edges, other than some replaceable blade heads like the Grim Reaper Micro Hades. I've shot deer with those, and I mean, they're really sharp. I mean, they're a razor edge at the beginning, and obviously you can replace them, but you can resharpen them too if you really absolutely wanted to. But so I got that burr on the back side again. Then I just come back to this side, take a couple swipes, and take the burr off. Now I'm going to switch to the 800. Repeat that. And sorry it's kind of taking a little longer. I mean, like I said, this is no speedy thing. You know, once you kind of do it more and more, you get faster, you know, the faster you get at it. You know, obviously I'm not trying to do this really fast for video purposes, because I want you guys to obviously understand what, you know, what's going on and what you're really looking for in order to get these sharp, you know, or really any head that you haven't really watched many videos on how to get head sharp. And there's a lot of good kits out there to do these. My favorite kind of style heads are a good 3-blade that have a surface that's equivalent to Sharpen on a flat stone. They're just super easy to sharpen. They're fast. And you know, it's just, you're just working along, and like, you know, the lighter the grit you get, obviously, I mean, you don't really want to push hard on any of the steps, but you know, like this point, you're just using the weight of the tool. That's all you're doing, and just really just honing down that edge, and you'll see when I'm done, it's well worth it, and the difference it makes. It's just a world of a difference, and it's just a big confidence thing too, knowing that your broadheads are sharp, and when you send them downrange, that, you know, they're ready to face anything that they're gonna go at. And like I said, I mean, the sharper they are, just the more efficient they are, and the head's gonna be able to do what it's designed to do. And that's kind of one thing I can never stress enough, is why so many people will kind of argue the fact of taking this time to make these sharp, or any head in general, you know. That's kind of made as a resharpenable head like these, the VPAs, which I have over here as well. The other new exact archery heads, iron wills, Valkyries, Grizz tricks. I mean, so many different ones, you know. Which this year I'm running the iron will wide, and so I'm really excited to actually try those out. I mean, I've shot deer with the Solid brand, Solid broadheads, which are 1 3/8 cut with a 3/4 inch bleeder blade, and they made an absolute hole, and the deer expired very fast. Big blood trails. And the iron will wide are the same dimension. So I already know what's going to be the difference, but the only difference was the Solid was a double bevel like these, and the iron wills I'm shooting a single bevel. So it'll be the first deer I shoot with a single bevel. But so now I'm going to a ceramic edge. Now this, you don't want to keep going back and forth like we were. You just want to go against it like this. And this is just really kind of polishing that edge. You might be able to kind of see that dark line down here. Might be kind of hard to see it. There you can kind of see it. You can see that black edge. That's just showing a glare of where, like, basically the edge is getting polished. And that's where you're getting your sharp edge. And you just take a few, go back and forth, and you'll kind of see that edge kind of change a little bit. And it's the ceramic is not you're not trying to you're not taking any material off. You're not grinding away at it anymore. You're just you're just polishing it. That's all you're doing. And like I said, it's kind of another thing where people are like, wow, it's kind of unnecessary to do that. Well, whatever. There's probably a reason why a lot of people's heads won't shave a hair, and others people's will. And it makes a difference. It makes a big difference. And I've shot deer with out of the box sharp heads, and I've shot deer with heads that I've sharpened personally that I know are razor sharp, and there's a big difference. So I'll take this out now and I'll show you what I did. Now, hopefully you kind of stuck along to the whole video in order to kind of catch all this. So here's the factory edge, okay, and here's the edge that we just did. So you can see that black edge where it's real super shiny, okay, on both sides. You know, that little edge is just a little mirror edge, just enough to sharpen that edge. Okay, here's the factory edge again, and here's that edge. So, and you can tell it, I mean, when you feel it too, it is noticeably sharper even doing this. So, we'll zoom this out a little bit again. There's your factory edge. No hairs at all. And now the head that we just decided that we just did. A lot more hairs on there. You know, that is a big difference. Mind you, I could spend a little more time on it and get it even sharper, but it's pretty dang good. So, hope that kind of helps you guys out a little bit. Get these heads a lot sharper than the factory edge. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to kind of stay tuned and watch some more of these videos, you know, obviously subscribe to the channel and keep on keeping on. And when I'm coming around to do the iron wills again, I'll walk you through that. And it's a little more time consuming because it's a little different process, but you know, and it's a harder steel than these. These are hardened stainless. Those are a hardened carbon, you know, a hard carbon steel, an A2 tool steel. Better edge retention in a high carbon steel like the iron wills than you will a stainless head. A lot of guys like stainless heads. I'm not overly big about stainless heads just because the edge retention isn't quite as good. The durability of the broadhead isn't quite as good. And you probably wonder, well, why are you shooting these then? Well, you know, you got to try everything once, okay? You know, and if you know, a lot of people argue the superiority of stainless over carbon steel, and if stainless was that superior in sharpness, a lot more, you know, professional knife makers, your bladesmiths would be making a lot more knives out of stainless, which they don't. They make them far more out of hardened steel, you know, tool steels, spring steel, stuff like that. So, yeah, stay tuned and subscribe to the channel and keep on keeping on.